How to master Java exception handling for debugging. Imagine you're trying to fix a tricky bug in your Java application. You need to understand what went wrong and where. That's where exception handling comes into play. Properly managing exceptions can make debugging much smoother. Let's explore how to do this effectively. First, get familiar with the two main types of Java exceptions. Checked exceptions are errors you expect and must handle, like input-output errors. Unchecked exceptions happen during runtime, such as dividing by zero or null pointer exceptions. Knowing the difference helps you decide how to handle each situation. Next, always catch the most specific exception possible. Instead of catching a broad exception like exception or throwable, target specific ones like input-output exception or number format exception. This way, you know exactly what went wrong, making debugging clearer. Avoid empty catch blocks or catching exceptions without doing anything. If you cannot handle an exception at a certain point, let it pass up the call stack. This prevents hiding bugs and helps you find the root cause faster. Handle exceptions where you can take meaningful action. For example, if an input-output exception occurs, you might want to retry reading a file or inform the user. Keeping exception handling organized makes your code easier to debug later. Always log exceptions thoroughly. Use a logging framework like simple logging or log4j, include the exception type, and stack trace in your logs. Good logs are essential for understanding what went wrong after the program runs. Set exception breakpoints in your integrated development environment. These breakpoints pause execution when an exception is thrown or caught. They let you inspect variables and call stacks at the exact moment an error occurs, speeding up your debugging process. Use finally blocks to clean up resources like files or database connections. This ensures resources are released even if an exception happens. But avoid putting complex logic in finally blocks, as that can cause more errors. When throwing exceptions, write clear and concise messages explaining the problem. This helps everyone reading the logs understand the issue quickly. For example, say, file not found instead of just error. Practice defensive programming by validating inputs early. If you anticipate possible errors, you can prevent them from happening in the first place. This approach makes bugs easier to catch and fix. If you cannot handle an exception locally, declare it with throws and let it propagate. This way, higher-level methods can decide how to handle the error, keeping your code organized. In real debugging, use specific catch blocks to isolate errors. Enable exception breakpoints in your IDE to pause on errors and examine program state. Log exceptions with detailed messages and stack traces. Always avoid silently swallowing exceptions, either log or rethrow them. Remember to clean up resources in finally blocks to prevent resource leaks, which can cause subtle bugs. Document exceptions in your method signatures and comments so others know what errors to expect. By following these steps, you will improve your ability to identify, understand, and fix bugs related to exceptions in Java applications. This makes your debugging process more straightforward and your code more reliable.